Hey everyone, I'm your co-host Kyle Dando, and welcome back to the EdgeVerse Techcast. This is again your go-to place for everything related to NXP software, tools, and enablement, specifically tailored for NXP's processors and microcontrollers.
And I'm Bridgette Stone. Today we're revisiting the NXP MCUXpresso extension for Visual Studio Code, Mr. Dando's favorite topic.
Heck
We've
yeah.
got a we've got a really exciting episode ahead, and we're joined by Jose Ocampo Hernandez, Product Marketing Manager for VS Code. Jose, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bridget and Kyle, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here and share some new updates with you all.
Jose, why don't you share a little bit about yourself first before I start grilling you with all the tough questions?
Yeah, so Bridget mentioned that I was the product manager for VS Code. So that's what I do here at NXP. And something interesting about myself, well, I suppose I like karaoke, but I'm a terrible singer. So I'd probably drive down your listener count if I start singing.
Ooh, we always like cameos, so I don't know, Jose. And I guess we got to come up with a new nickname for you, maybe Karaoke Jose. What's your go-to song?
Definitely tequila.
Ooh, I love it. Well, thanks again for being here today. Let's kick it off. I know you work very closely with the NXP IDE team to produce top-tier tools for our customers. Christian Tepes was already on the show and did an excellent introduction to the VS Code extension. What are you most excited to dive into today, Jose?
Well, Christian's episode did a great job of introducing all the benefits of VS Code. It mostly focused on how NXP makes it easy to get started with the SDK and example projects for evaluation kits. But what I really want to dive deeper on is the debug capabilities offered by the VS Code extension. So a developer will expect a minimum level of support during the debug process of their project. I want our discussion to leave the listener confident that the MCUXpresso extension for VS Code has them covered, and in some aspects, even ahead of the competition.
Yes, I love it. So let's start with the basics. What do developers expect from debug support in an IDE, and does the NXP extension for VS Code meet those expectations?
Great idea. Let's start there. So, for the first item, we're going to talk about debug probe support. Some customers prefer Segur JLink or PE microprobes. NXP provides support for those popular probes, but also for our own MCU link probes. The next item is debug controls. So these include resume, stop, restart, stop. I think I said stop twice, but you know the basic tools that will essentially let developers like me use print statements like here alternate, here alternate two, and so on when my code executes. Next, we have a bit more of in-depth debugging tools like breakpoints, variables, live watch for expressions, disassembly view, and a call stack view. But overall, the VS Code editor window front and center is very easy to use.
Nice, Jose. Very solid overview. Debugging made easy with all those essential tools right at your fingertips. It's like having a whole toolbox, but without the messy drawer. So
Huh.
to clarify, are all of these powerful tools available for bare metal, Zephyr, and free RTOS projects? Because we know developers love having everything at their disposal, no matter what projects they're working on.
Absolutely. Once the debug perspective is launched, it provides an intuitive experience for all these tools across different project types.
Okay. It's my turn to ask Jose a question. I think this one the listeners are really going to like. So, what is an underappreciated tool that was added to the MCUXpresso extension by our developers that really help with the debug process?
Recently, there have been improvements to the tools around debugging memory. NXP added support for the Memory Inspector extension. And what this is, it's a collaborative extension developed by the Eclipse CDT Cloud Group. This includes several semiconductor vendors that contributed requirements to deliver a best-in-class tool for viewing memory on a target device. What NXP did is we added this extension to immediately provide debugging features involving memory needed by developers.
All right, Jose. Memory seems like a pretty straightforward concept. So how does this memory inspector tool stand out from what we used to have?
Well, before we added this extension, you would be surprised in the amount of requests that we receive for these features. It's more importantly than you realize until you need to inspect what is going on in your device's memory. The feature as it stands can edit memory, and this is by far the biggest request that we've seen. With this, developers can now modify memory to troubleshoot their software. It also contains syntax highlighting, and this extension really does a great job of visualizing the contents in memory. It will also color memory blocks for specific variables. It also contains a memory format. And with this, many users just wanted to be able to toggle between hex, octo, binary, and ASCII formats. Last, we have the ability to customize a memory region and have multiple different views based on address ranges.
That sounds incredibly useful, Jose. How easy is it for developers to access this feature using the memory inspector?
Well, it's super simple, really. Once the debug session starts, developers can right click on a variable or a value and simply select Show in Memory Inspector. And from there, they can dive into a tool and start customizing their views. And it's all very well documented in the VS Code extension wiki.
Wow, that's an immensely powerful tool. It's great to see how NXP is leveraging the collaboration with other semiconductor companies to bring these features to life. So, Jose, now let's talk about improvements. What's one notable improvement made to the VS Code extension since our last episode?
This easily has to be the return of an RTOS thread view. NXP made the decision to remove support for the prior RTOS tool after a lack of improvements by the maintainer. The customer feedback was clear, and NXP needed to restore the ability for customers to view RTOS activity within their projects.
How did developers cope without this tool?
Well, people were able to add other tools themselves to gain access, but NXP worked to provide what is now the RTOS Details view, and this allows NXP to maintain and improve the tool as customers provide feedback. And the tool is based off the popular Cortex debug extension. While this tool is very popular, NXP has taken the code base and is now working to provide the support for NXP devices and applications.
So, what exactly does this tool show?
Well, first, it helps users view created tasks. The RTOS allows software to have multiple tasks running in a project. The RTOS basically schedules those tasks. And the RTOS details view shows the task handle, the state, the priority, the stack usage, and so on. What the tool does, it basically creates a snapshot of how the RTOS is handling the different tasks. Lastly, Zephyr and FreeRTOS both have a few differences, but ultimately the user wants the ability to troubleshoot a project that has multiple tasks. Using the cost stack and the RTOS details view helps them gain more insight into what is really happening.
Okay, Jose, one more feature that I want you to share with the listeners. It's my favorite tool when troubleshooting a project, and that's the peripheral view. Can you give a quick overview of what the peripheral view provides to the customers?
I really like that view as well. And the peripheral view, it's a great tool to help developers dive into the thousands of device registers. Well, not thousands, but you get the message here. It uses the SVD file to organize the register to memory associations. The developer can search into the tool for a register from the data sheet, inspect the values, and compare with what they expect. Next, they also have write access, which allows the user to basically modify the register values and then start the debug session. This basically gives them absolute register control. This is something that's quite useful to verify if the device or peripheral acts as expected. I have used this to monitor toggling inputs and drive LEDs, just a usual tool when trying to configure such a complex device. And in the end, the lessons learned from using the peripherals view can help optimize the setup and configuration software of a project.
Okay, Jose, we're here to the last question. You are very well versed in our VS Code extension. However, most of our listeners or developers need a little more support. Where do you suggest they go to learn more about the debug features offered in this extension?
I'm so glad you reminded me. We actually worked hard to document the different features and tools in the extension. And a link to the documentation is included in the VS Code Quick Start menu. But it is super easy to find in Google if you just type in MCUXpresso VS Code Wiki. It should take the listener directly there.
Hey, Mr. Dando, can you make sure to add that to the episode notes and make it easy on our listeners?
Sure thing, Bridgette. I'm on it.
Great. I think the users will appreciate the section in the wiki titled Flash and Debug. The debug section actually has a list of 23 different topics. Some I introduced here, and others they may want to better understand by reading and going through the list themselves. There are also reference guides for specific hardware that they can follow. They have sections that walk users through the debug process for different projects and devices as well.
All right, so let's wrap things up. We've covered a ton of amazing debug features in the MCUXpresso extension for VS Code, from the memory inspector to the RTOS views, plus a bunch of other tools that are going to make the developers' lives a whole lot easier.
That we have, Kyle. Jose, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all these insights. We know our listeners are going to benefit from the updates that you've shared. Any final thoughts or anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
Thanks, Bridget and Kyle, for having me. It's been a pleasure to finally be on the EdgeVerse Techcast. I've been a fan. I've been quite jealous that I haven't been invited until now, but I'm glad to be here. I just want to really encourage developers to dive into the MCUXpresso extension for VS Code and explore these tools themselves. And remember, the more feedback we get, the better we can make these tools for the community. And also, don't hesitate to reach out with questions or suggestions.
Well said, Jose, and thanks again for all your great insights today and for all the great work you're doing on VS Code. We really do appreciate you taking the time today.
Yes, thanks, Jose. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And if there's any topic you'd like us to cover, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you.
And until next time, keep innovating, and we'll catch you on the next EdgeVerse Techcast.